UFC 318 down in New Orleans, Louisiana, the first event to take place in this city since 2015, surely delivered. There was an amazing main event between Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway, but now we've got to talk about the rest of the card, and we're going to start in that co-main event where Borrachina, Paulo Costa, and his secret juice, well, he may just be back. Paulo was riding a 2-fight losing streak heading into UFC 318 and had lost 4 of his last 5 bouts dating back to when he fought Israel Adesanya for the title in September of 2020. So this was a massive night for the state of his career, being he's 34 years old, right at the end of those prime years. It was kind of a do-or-die situation in terms of holding his relevancy and name in the top 15 of the middleweight division, and it was not an easy fight as he was tasked with taking on Roman Kopylov, who had won 6 of his last 7 bouts, including 2 in a row. But in the aftermath, what a performance from Paulo Costa, who honestly turned back the clock and had the best performance that we've seen from him since he beat Yoel Romero in August of 2019, nearly 6 full years ago. I thought it was going to be the volume of Roman Kopylov that would cause problems for Paulo, whereas he would just present dangerous power on the way back from the counters, but he was the one pushing the pace in this fight. Yes, landing those damaging blows and wobbling Roman a couple of times, but he also had a ton of output and volume as well. This was truly a great performance from minute 1 to minute 15 for Costa, and a big moment for him to say, y'all must have forgot, I'm still here. This type of performance and the way he looked as though he was a top 10 middleweight, if I'm being quite frank. And I'm going to go ahead and pair this with another huge middleweight fight on the very same card, because that's where my matchmaking is heading toward, and that was Brendan Allen getting the fight of the night performance and victory over his rival Marvin Vettori, this time not in a casino lobby, but in the Octagon in New Orleans. Allen would earn a unanimous decision win with 2 30-27 scorecards and 1 29-28 over Marvin Vettori, the former title challenger and longtime UFC veteran, and it was a big get-right moment for not only Paulo Costa, as previously mentioned, but for Brendan Allen, who entering UFC 318 was also on a 2-fight skid. And Brendan would showcase a lot more than those jiu-jitsu and submission skills that we are so used to seeing from him, because let us not forget, during his 7-fight win streak a few short years ago, 5 of them were by way of sub, but in this one, he outstruck Marvin Vettori with his volume and with some pretty damaging shots while still mixing in 3 takedowns, although he didn't have much control time with them, just 1 minute and 27 in total. But still, he presented the threat of the submissions with his grappling and takedowns, and I think that's what led to him having so much success on the feet as well, because Marvin had to constantly worry about potentially getting taken down, opening up the shots for Brendan in the striking realm. These two combined to throw 495 strikes, landing 236 of them. There were a lot of high-octane action bouts on this card, and this was another one, the official fight of the night winner, as previously mentioned. And we've got 2 middleweights that are number 11 and number 13 respectively, prior to Tuesday morning's new rankings coming out, who both got bounce-back victories following a 2-fight losing streak, and they fought on the very same card. That's the next fight to make. It's Brendan Allen, it's Paulo Costa. The winner of that gets shot right into the top 10 and maybe is 1 or 2 more wins away from a title. Daniel Rodriguez and Kevin Holland had one of the wildest fights of 2025 so far, where D-Rod was able to end the 2-fight win streak of Kevin Holland and further his winning streak to 3 now. And he's doing all this at 38 years old. D-Rod having the best stretch of his UFC career, following up his finish over Santiago Ponzinibbio in May with this absolute barn burner with Kevin Holland, where he nearly finished Kevin early in the fight. Kevin nearly finished him late in the fight, and then somehow he was still able to reverse position and end up in the full mount for the last minute of the fight. This one had everything you could have asked for, and if it weren't for UFC 318 having 17 fight of the night contenders, this would have been a shoo-in for fight of the night on any other card. We've seen Daniel Rodriguez in the rankings once before, and now he will re-enter the rankings come Tuesday morning, as Kevin Holland was ranked number 13 after his back-to-back wins at 170 heading into this bout. And how sick would a fight be between Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez and Gilbert Burns, who is a veteran, a former title challenger, and is currently not booked to have a fight right now and sits at number 10. That is an awesome fight with 2 guys that are late into their 30s and are entering the twilight of their careers but still have plenty left to offer. Gilbert coming into this one, or at least hopefully coming into this fight, after his main event opportunity against Michael Morales, who remained undefeated after finishing Gilbert. It checks all the boxes. It could easily be a fight night main event or a featured bout on a pay-per-view card such as this one. Sign me up for D-Rod versus Gilbert Durino Burns. And for Kevin Holland, well, don't worry, we'll probably see him in, let's see, it's July 20th when I'm recording this. Yeah, I think we'll see him before the end of September. And I still hope that he commits to 170 pounds, and I still hope that he has this aspiration of climbing the ranks, because it really looked like he was turning the corner in 2025 and looking to make serious traction as a legitimate player in the best weight class in the UFC this current point in 2025. So I'm not giving up on Kevin Holland yet, but he only has so many more chances to keep people's trust in terms of his potential, right? Rather than just seeing him in fun scraps. Have to talk about this fight briefly, and that's because the number 11 ranked 50K Dan Ige suffered defeat to the hands of the longtime Bellator veteran, former multi-time multi-weight class champion Patricio Pitbull, who picked up his first UFC win, bouncing back from his debut in the promotion and loss to Yair Rodriguez in April at UFC 314. Patricio would outland Dan Ige 71-59 in total, with 5 takedowns landed. Although he only racked up 2 minutes and 44 seconds of control time, he really wasn't allowing Dan to get off that many big shots, and even had Ige hurt in his own right on the feet at a couple of moments throughout this one. This was a very important fight for the state of Patricio's career, as he is 38 years old now, so time isn't necessarily on his side. He's not in the UFC for a long time, but he is here for a good time. Come Tuesday morning, he will rightfully be in the top 15 of the featherweight division, and I am curious to see what potential matchups could be next for him. Ooh, I think I may have found it. I think it's Josh Emmett, right? Who's going to say no to that? Patricio Pitbull, an absolute firecracker on the feet that holds grappling skills, versus Josh Emmett, who is one of the most durable fighters in the UFC and the hardest hitting featherweight on the planet. At least I feel confident saying that now that Ilya is not here anymore. That's an opportunity for Josh Emmett to hold his spot in the top 10, where he currently sits at number 8, and prove that he can still hang with some of the best in the world, and for Pitbull to break into the featherweight top 10 and maybe get one more opportunity to reach top 5, and maybe, before it's too late, title contention. And since we already talked about Brendan Allen and Marvin Vettori paired in with the Paulo Costa discussion, we got to talk about 6 straight prelim fights that all ended via finish, with 5 of the 6 happening in the first round, all in a row. We'll start at the top and work our way down, and we start with the middleweight Francis Ngannou himself, Ateba Gautier, who secured a first round knockout in just 1 minute and 10 seconds over Robert Valentin. The silent assassin from Cameroon is just 23 years old, already has a record of 8-1, with 7 of his 8 wins by way of knockout, 2-0 in the UFC, both in 2025, and maybe, actually scratch that, at the end of the year, he will be in the discussion for newcomer of the year. He is absolutely shredded, looks like a freaking statue walking around in there. He's 6'4" for this middleweight division, long, rangy, clearly powerful, with 2 back-to-back first-round knockouts to kick off his UFC career. March and July, it's possible that he gets 2 more in before the end of 2025, and we could be talking seriously about him if he does so. But for now, it's obvious he is a legitimate prospect in the middleweight division. Keep your eyes on Ateba Gautier. Next, we move to a prospect in the 170-pound welterweight division, as if this division needed any more people in it. Islam Dulatov, otherwise known as the Ripper from Germany, 26 years old, 6'3", 12-1 with 12 finishes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a 100% finish rate, and he made good on his UFC debut by taking out the veteran Adam Fugitt in the very first round via knockout, following his Dana White Contender Series win last October, where, yes, you guessed it, he secured a first round knockout. As a matter of fact, 11 of his 12 finishes have all came in round number 1, with just one of them going out of the opening 5, and it happened in the second round. On top of his potential ceiling and his legitimate skill set in the cage, he's also a model on the outside. The guy's got everything going for him. He's the full package, the Ripper, Islam Dulatov. Jimmy Crute got his first win since October of 2020 on Saturday night at UFC 318, and he did it in style with a nasty armbar sub over Marcin Prachnio at 4 minutes and 42 seconds of the opening round. He entered this fight on a 5-fight winless streak with 3 losses and 2 draws, and one of the draws happening at UFC 312 earlier this year in February to Rodolfo Bellato. So this was a massive moment for Jimmy Crute, who at 29 was seriously facing a lot of question marks regarding his career, even though he's just now getting ready to enter the prime, especially when you consider he's at the heavier weight classes of 205 pounds. But he's now 13-4-2 and has finished 10 out of his 13 professional wins with 5 knockouts and 5 submissions. He truly can get it done in all facets of the game, and he looks forward to fighting someone such as a Dustin Jacoby, I potentially heard as a shout out in the post-fight press conference. And that is a fight that you can absolutely sign me up for. Two gentlemen looking to get back into the top 15 where they once were, and it's sure to deliver for as little or as long as the fight lasts. Good on Jimmy Crute for getting the massive bounce back victory. Ryan Spann wasted no time bouncing back from his heavyweight debut loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta in March, where he would suffer a second round TKO defeat, with a victory here over Lukasz Brzeski, where he would earn the first round submission 2 minutes and 37 seconds in with a guillotine choke. Superman earns his first heavyweight win in the UFC, and it comes at a very important time for the state of his career in general, because prior to this, he had lost 4 out of 5, was 0-1 already since moving up a weight class to heavyweight. Things were not in his favor. He did not have much momentum. This changes that, because he is still just 33 years old, and we know that at these heavier weight classes, you can sustain success for longer periods of time, given that you aren't cutting weight nearly as much as the smaller guys. He's 23-11 and has finished 20 of those 23 victories with 14 subs and 6 knockouts. I think with his athleticism and skill sets in the grappling and striking realm, he can cause issues for people in the top 15. So while yes, putting him in there with Waldo Cortez Acosta in hindsight maybe was just too much too soon for a heavyweight debut, especially considering he's 1 win away from fighting for a championship should he beat Sergey Pavlovich next month. But if you put Ryan Spann in there against someone like a Martin Buday, even a Taliesin Teixeira who lost to Derek Lewis last week, someone as high as Taito Ivasa at number 10, I would definitely favor Ryan Spann in those types of fights, which would put him right there near the top 10 of the heavyweight division. And we all know it doesn't take a lot of wins, especially if they're finishes, to rise up the ranks. Jackson McVey was able to make his debut on this UFC 318 card after having been pulled from last week's bout because his opponent came in 10 pounds overweight and was immediately cut from the promotion. But it turns out that it wasn't an easy debut to follow up the disaster that was last week, because he got put in there with the Hawk, Brunno Ferreira, who has had 14 victories in his career, with not one of them coming by way of decision, and, well, that still remains the same in the aftermath, because the Hawk, Brunno, got the first round submission over Jackson McVey with an armbar 3 minutes and 35 seconds in. He has now won back-to-back fights. Most recently before this was Armen Petrosyan in March. That's a very big victory, and his only losses in the UFC are to Abus Magomedov and Nursultan Ruziboev, both highly accredited people on the outside looking in of their division. 16 fights for Brunno Ferreira, having never gone the distance once, and Jackson McVey, through his now 7-fight professional career, has never even left the first damn round. We knew this was going to be violence, and Brunno Ferreira cashes as the minus 500 plus favorite. And last but not least, we got to talk about the 26-year-old crispy Carli Judice, who is now 5-2, has all 5 of her victories by way of knockout, and has won back-to-back fights since starting her UFC tenure 0-1, including a loss on the Contender Series as well. She is legit. After seeing these 2 fights, her striking and her hands are awesome. She's long, she's rangy, she's very quick, she's very precise, she's very technical, and carries power. Again, at 125 pounds, to have a 100% knockout win rate is something you do not see. And for that reason, I'm here for Carli Judice. I'm here for this run. Put her up against a top 15 flyweight next. I've seen enough. Karine Silva, Casey O'Neill, JJ Aldrich, any of them. Give her someone between number 10 and number 15 next. She has earned it, and after these 2 performances, I absolutely think that she could beat any of those 5 as well. So that is it for the UFC 318 recap, and I want to get all of your thoughts and your takeaways from this card down in the comments below. And let me know if you hit any big bets or parlays over the course of the weekend as well. I came out on the losing side of things, 3-5, minus 1.92 units. Part of that is because I went 0-2 on the PFL card, but who's counting, right? And if you enjoyed this recap, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because we are on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2025, and any and all support is greatly appreciated. On top of recaps for the most meaningful results in the aftermath of each card, I also break down and discuss the biggest fights and preview the best storylines heading into each weekend, and give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can join the community on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok. TikTok, as well as like the Facebook page Verbal Sparring MMA. And if you're a podcast listener, no worries, I've got you covered on Spotify, Apple, and more, where every Monday and Friday, long-form episodes release there. Have a great week, and I will catch you all in the next video.